Hey guys, it's Leslie and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do sort of my first book review. Yeah, for having a book channel, I probably should be talking about the reviews of books. But I'm slightly intimidated because I don't know sort of I don't know if it's the right way or if I'm going to be saying the wrong things or turn people off. I don't know. So we'll see how it goes. And I had to pick the easiest book to review, which is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. This is a book that I picked up for the In Love-a-thon, and it's also a classic, which I've been wanting to read one classic a month. So I figured I'll just combine the two, and this is a classic love story, if you will. And this was an interesting read, I will tell you that. It's not super long, it's just about 300 pages. It was published in 1955, I believe. That's about all the non-weird things I could say about it. This is a story about a man named Humbert who basically falls in love with a 12-year-old girl named Dolores, who he calls Lolita. And it's about their relationship. And that's, the most you can kind of say without spoiling anything. So I will go from there and kind of just talk about how I felt about the book. First, I will say it is broken up into two parts. There's like a first part, sort of before he and Lolita are anything or have any kind of relationship, and then sort of after that occurs. And the first part I actually really, really enjoyed. I thought it was sort of it felt kind of like a mystery, kind of like it was leading up to something, and not, to me, not in like an erotic sense or like in a explicit sense. It just felt like you were like somebody was going to find something out, or things were going to change, or there was kind of some sort of twist. So I was, pretty engaged with the beginning part of the story. And the characters were interesting, and certainly the writing is very compelling in the beginning. The character of Humbert, who is basically writing his memoir, and in the very first chapter he's writing from jail. And Humbert writes this book as if he's writing to a jury or people who are basically going to condemn him. And I think that's an interesting point of view for a subject like pedophilia, that the character sort of knows that he's being judged. The character knows that what he's doing is probably against conventional wisdom. But one of the more interesting parts of it, especially in the beginning of the book, he uses so many examples of famous writers or just people throughout history who have been with much younger girls, like through marriage, and I'm talking back with Socrates and Plato, very, very, very long time ago, and sort of using that as his justification for that this isn't weird, this isn't abnormal, this has been done, and look at these great people who have been in these situations. And I thought that was pretty an interesting part of his character, because he could understand that what he was doing and his urges were not okay by society standards, but he wanted to say, but these great people feel like I do. So I thought that was just like an interesting writing choice. I also thought that he uses this term, which is also really creepy but interesting. Anything that was sort of the enemy or the bad guy, he always described them as hairy, which is so creepy because obviously, there's a whole thing about puberty and hair and whatever, but I think that's so like a bizarre writing choice to say, oh, the hairy arm of the law, or that person in their hairy stuff, or even describing an older woman like she's got a beard or whatever. Like, it was just really weird, and I picked up on that a lot. So I don't know if that was intentional. I suppose it was, but I just found that to be a very weird choice of wording to denote sort of the bad person or whatever. But I guess it makes sense if the character that you're writing about is supposed to be into small children. This book also makes you feel very uncomfortable because and I'm a parent, so I'm creeped out by the fact that this guy would just go to parks and sit and look at children. And I'm like, I'm scared. Like, I need to protect my kids. Like, just the creepers in the world exist. And I just think that's, I don't know, that's scary to me. That was really, really scary. And it happens more than one time in the story. And he's always commenting about the children that he sees around him. And that is so unnerving. Now, the second part of the book is so incredibly boring. All he does is pine and pine and pine and pine for Lolita. And even when they're together or within each other's presence, like, he can't not be obsessed with her. And I get that's the character, but ugh, it was like 150 pages of just him whining about her and just the lengths that he goes to stay with her or be with her, or the people that he tries to keep away from her. I mean, it's just so tedious. I just like would have to try to get through 20 pages and be like, okay, God, you can do 20 more pages. You can do 20 more pages. If this were any other story, I would have DNF'd it because I don't push myself to read books that I don't like. But this was a classic, so I was like, well, maybe at the end it's going to get better. And it, at the very end, like in the last 10 pages maybe, it sort of gets interesting again and some things sort of wrap up. But no. And it's funny because at the very end of the book, there is a note from the author, and he sort of explains that. He says a lot of people liked the very beginning of the book, and then the rest of the book they hated. So I don't know if it's because he thinks that anyone who's reading this is looking for like some erotic writings on it, if that's what he's expecting. But I just felt that the interest of the story was gone. Like, you don't want to hear about a man just whining about a woman, or a girl in this case, incessantly. It's just boring. Now, his prose is interesting, and the word choices and his obsession with French, like the language of French. I think it was sort of this pretension, like he thought he was better than other people, so he would speak in French. I don't know, but that was weird. So anyway, I guess I am not the audience that Nabokov was trying to reach with this story. I don't think, I kind of fell into the camp that was interested in the first half, and the second half was just so dull. But maybe there's some bigger, grander literary accomplishment he was trying to reach with that. But at the end of the day, if the story is not interesting, regardless of what you're trying to tell the world, to me, that's unsuccessful. I don't think that's, or you're just writing to a very specific audience. That's not me. But in general, I thought this book was meh. It wasn't as interesting as everyone had kind of made Lolita out to be. And yeah, overall, I would give this a 2-star. It's just not that good. And as far as like being sort of this taboo classic, nah, I think it's mostly boring, and it's certainly creepy. It's certainly creepy when you're reading about it, but like it doesn't, the creepiness is not good enough for a boring story. I think it just feels creepy to be creepy, and there may have been other ways to tell this same story, or at least the same kind of principles of the story, in a better way. So maybe I'm just not the right person to have read this to, but this is certainly like the most boring of the books that I have read this year. I only kind of recommend this if, one, you're curious about Lolita and sort of the hype that it has for being a classic, but I also would recommend it, I guess, if you're just interested in reading more classics. I mean, there's certainly things to be gleaned from this, but as just a fun read, if you're just interested in a story, nah, definitely skip this one. I don't know. Let's see. What do you think about this? Have you read Lolita? Do you feel that I just missed a ton of the points of the story? That's okay. I'm okay with not being smart enough to maybe understand Vladimir Nabokov, but I don't think I would read anything else by him. And I don't really recommend Lolita unless you just want to say, hey, I've read Lolita. I don't know if that's cool or not, but anyway, that's my review. So take it for what it is. You can write in the comments that I'm an idiot. I get it. But other than that, I guess I will see you next time. Bye.